So Darkwing Blast is coming out in about a month's time. We've taken a look at the Blackwing support that's coming out that set, but I think it's about time that we're looking to something a little bit more competitive. So today we're going to be looking at Bysted. Bysted is a archetype of dragon monsters, which can summon themselves by banishing a dark or a light monster from either player's graveyard, and they are quick effects if your opponent controls a monster. We're going to be using them in a Thunder and a Punk shell, with a little bit of dragon thrown in there just for extra spiciness, I guess. And we are going to show off what this deck can do with the other archetypes involved. So obviously we're playing the Thunder cards because they trigger off being banished, and the Bysteds love to banish stuff. So you can kind of see where the resources will be coming for as we try and build our board full of monsters like Baron and Savage Dragon, Titan, and I guess Chengying and stuff like that. So we'll get into the Bysted monsters to start. The best one, in my opinion, is the Bysted Bellion. It is the best one because it is all of them. This card is a Searcher, so I'll just read the text for you. Cannot be normal summoned or set. It must be special summoned from your hand or your graveyard by tributing a level 6 or higher Dark Dragon monster. You can only special summon him in this way once, and you can only use the following effects of Lubellion once per turn. So you can send this card from the hand to the graveyard and add one Bysted monster from your deck to your hand. So that is the entirety of the Bysted archetype, which is pretty good, except himself, of course. And during your main phase, as a condition effect, you can place one branded continuous spell trap from your deck face up on your field. We're only using the ones that are coming out with the Bysted cards, which are to be used with the Bysted cards. I haven't read most of branded spell traps. I know there's a million of them, other than Branded Fusion, Branded and Red. I haven't read most of them. Maybe there are better cards to search. We're just going to be playing around with the actual Bysted ones. We're going with 2 copies of the other Bysted cards. So we'll start with Magna Mutt. As I said earlier, they summon themselves by targeting a light or dark monster in either graveyard, and then banishing it, and then special summoning themselves. If your opponent controls a monster, that is a quick effect. So these are effectively DD Crows for lights and darks, so very, very good against Tyrannoments. They can trigger their effect to fusion summon by putting themselves back on the bottom of the deck. You can banish them before that resolves, and then they don't get that fusion monster. And obviously, Sprite has dark monsters as well, and just light and dark tends to be the best archetypes, the best attributes. So most competent decks will have lights and darks. Like if you're going up against Mathmech, Circular, Diameter, Sigma, those are all light monsters. So you have targets in those as well, which could be quite nice going into like Super Factorial. But we'll get into these monsters' actual effects. So Magnum, I just call him Mag. If this card is special summoned, you can activate its effect and add one dragon monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand during the end phase of this turn. Very, very strong, such as any dragon. It activates when it's special summoned, and it adds in the end phase. So if you activate it, please remember to actually add the monster in the end phase, because if not, you would not maintain the board state. You can get in trouble for that. But very strong. Normally you'll be searching just another Bysted as a form of disruption in your opponent's turn, just like searching a copy of Druid Worm. And then just summoning it in your opponent's turn, either using it with IP or Hulk, and then getting additional resources, that sort of way. So Druid Worm, as I just mentioned, has the same summoning condition as the former. This one has the effect that if this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can target one opponent's special summoned monster and send it to the graveyard, so it doesn't destroy, it sends, which is quite nice. And there's plenty of ways of getting this off the boards in your opponent's turn to be able to trigger it. But also, if you're going second, it can be very nice for breaking boards. As I said earlier, using IP, using Halka Firebrax to tag into a Tuna Synchro monster and syncing it off. Both are very strong and can give you some extra disruptions. Then we have 2 copies of Soronir. This is probably the worst one of the lot. So if this card is sent to the graveyard by any means, so it doesn't have to be from the field, you can send one Bysted monster, except himself, or one branded spell trap from your deck to the graveyard. So he's probably the worst one of the lot, but I want to play 2 of each because their summoning is a hard once per turn. But I would not be remiss to say that you could potentially just play 3 Mag, 2 Druid Worm, and 1 Soronir. I'm playing 2 of each, again, because of the hard once per turn lock. Rebranded is one of the Bysted spells and traps that we are searching off of the Bellion. So this card is super pushed, if I can actually get over to it to be able to read it. Oh my god, I am failing miserably over here. Okay, so if a light or dark monster is banished, you can target one of those monsters and place it on the bottom of the deck, and if you do, draw 1 card. Very strong, you get to do this in your turn to get a little draw, and you get to do it in your opponent's turn because obviously your Bysted monsters will be quick effects, which is very strong. So over the course of your turn, your opponent's turn, you're drawing 2, so it's basically pot agreed. But it also has the effect that once per turn, if your opponent normal or special summons a monster, you can target a Bysted monster in your graveyard and special summon it. This can be very good for summoning back the mag that you used in your turn, and then summon it back to getting another search in the end phase of your opponent's turn to be able to have follow-up to be able to crack any board your opponent is able to build going into your board, which is really, really strong. Playing one of Branded Beast, again, it's Bysted themed. Once per turn during the main phase, if you control a Bysted monster, you contribute one dragon monster, then target one card your opponent controls and destroy it. So it's just tribute one, pop one. We've seen many cards like this in the past. I'm playing it because why not? It's a Bysted card. But also, it's very good going into Dark Roar No More if you think your opponent's going to be on that, which most of your opponents are going to be. Instead of going for the spell, you can go for the trap, and then if they Dark Roar, you have some form of disruption going forward. It has a second effect that during the end phase, you can target a random continuous spell trap in your graveyard and place it face up on the field. So this can technically get back the spell, but that doesn't come up all that often. So that's it for the Bysted cards. For the Thunder package, I'm going to assume that you know what the Thunder cards do, but when we get into the test hands, I will explain what the cards are doing. So 3 Battering Man Solar, 3 Dragon Roar, 3 Dragon Dark, 3 of the OG Thunder Dragon, 2 Matrix, 1 Dragon Hawk, and 1 Thunder Dragon Fusion. This engine is really, really good with the Bysted cards because half of them trigger when they are banished or just linked off and that sort of stuff, so that's really, really strong. And Battering Man Solar is obviously good because it enables you to put lights and darks in your graveyard for the Bysted cards, which is very strong. We are playing a Punk engine, so I'm playing 2 Zayaman, 2 Foxy Toon, 1 Deerno, and 3 Emergency Teleport to get to them. I'm not sure if the Punk engine will be legal when the Bysted cards come out, but as of right now, we don't actually know when the ban list is going to come, so I'm going to assume they will be for the time being, but there's a very good chance these cards won't be illegal at the same time. But it's always fun to test these decks at their possible top power level. We are playing a Dragon engine, so I'm playing 1 Collapsed Serpent and 1 Wyver Buster, and the 3 Chaos Spaces which you can search it. Chaos Space can also search Lebellion, since it's a light monster that cannot be normal summoned or set, so that is, and it's a level 8. So that is something to keep in mind. You will often be using Chaos Space to search Lebellion rather than the the Chaos Dragons. But obviously these can also search these as well, which is really, really strong. And also Chaos Space also has the effect that allows you to draw a card, so with rebranded Chaos Space, you can, over the course of yours and your opponent's turn, draw 3 cards, which is really, really nice. We're playing 1 Rocket Tracer, 1 Recharger, and 3 Quick Launch, just extra dragon monsters, and also Tracer's a tuner, which is really useful for getting into Halka Fibrax and for going into Pega Ruler, which can also, it just keeps you going, because there's not too many true combos in this deck. You can't just look at your hand and you just play it out and just see what happens. So you just want extenders, and I think this is a really good one. 1 Boot Sector Launch to search off of the Striker Dragon. Why not? It's free. I mean, when you have really, really bad hands, this comes up quite a lot. We have 1 Fairy Tale Snow, 1 Jet Synchron, 1 Shinobi Necro, which is my new favourite tuner to summon off of Halka Fibrax. Thank you, Dylan, for pointing out that this card exists. I think he stole that from Pack. 1, the Chaos Creator. I wasn't playing this in the list in most of my testing, and by most of my testing, I mean all of my testing. I posted this list in the team's group chat to see if they had any opinions about it or anything they thought I should change. And Devon, one of our team members, said you got to play the Chaos Creator because he's played Thunder a lot. And the reason we're playing this is because we could search off the Thunder Dragon Fusion for turn 3, and if you banish a Gamma previously with the Pepega Ruler, you can bring it back and then make the Baron to floor if you haven't got into it already, which is pretty strong. And I guess you can also search off Chaos Space. We are playing 2 Pot Desires and 1 Called by the Grave, as well as 3 Gammas, 1 Drive, and 3 Dark Roar No More, all pretty standard. For the extra deck, we're playing 2 Link 1s, we're playing Link Rebo and Striker Dragon. We're playing 1 Heavenly Seals, Heavenly Spheres, should I say, 1 Halki Fibrax, 1 IP, and 1 Unicorn to go into off the IP. We're playing a Curious. We do have a 2-card combo that can make this, and honestly, just milling cards is really, really good in this deck. 1 Appaloosa and 1 Access Code Talker for obvious reasons. Shooting Riser Dragon as our target off of Halka Fibrax, because we have a ensuite of levels that we could leave on the board, anywhere from literally from level 1 to 8. It's nice to have Shooting Riser Dragon that can modulate its level, and also gets to send follow-up, which is quite nice. One Chaos Ruler, the heart and soul of the deck, one Savage Dragon, one Baron de Fleur, one Cheng Ying, and one copy of Thunder Dragon Titan. So I don't have any dedicated combos to actually show you, because like I said, most of the combos that you'll be doing is just you look at your hand and you play. So we are just going to do that, and we're just going to do some test hands, and we're going to see what we can do with the deck. So no Bysted cards in this combo, doesn't mean we won't get to them though. Let's give it a little bit of think here. So we can use the Foxy Tune to get the Zayaman, and then we can use the Quick Launch to get a copy of Recharger probably, go into Hulk. We can send the Roar, is there any way of banishing it? Not really. I mean, there's things we can do, but this hand isn't the greatest, I'm not going to lie. So we'll start off with the Foxy Tune, and we'll get rid of this Thunder Dragon Roar, because it's better in the graveyard than it is in the hand. We'll special summon a copy of Zayaman, and we'll use the effects. And I actually think we're going to just search for Deer Note here, and then we're going to use the Quick Launch essentially as a way. Where's the Deer Note? Just to get a tribute material for the Deer Note and just normal summon it out. Whether that's the best way of playing this hand, I'm not entirely sure, but I'm just doing this off the cuff. So we'll Quick Launch. We'll go into the Recharger, I want to say. I think it's better to keep the Tuner in deck. There's a Recharger. We'll probably go into the Striker Dragon just to put a link in the graveyard for Savage Dragon and also be able to get the Field Spell out of the deck. Not playing around Nibiru at all, obviously. We can use the Striker Dragon to go grab a copy of Boot, wherever Boot might be. You might be able to hear the laptop starting to scream a little bit. Hopefully it's not too loud. And then, yeah, we'll just tribute off the Striker Dragon to normal summon the Deer Note. And then we can go into our copy of Chaos Ruler. We can then use the Chaos Ruler's effect and the Deer Note's effect to be able to special summon back the Zayaman, and then we can mill 5. These mills do have to do quite a lot for us here, I'm not going to lie. Did that work? We sent the Shinobi Necro, which isn't all that great. We did send the Dragon Roar earlier, so we could take the Hawk to special summon it back, link it off, and then we'll be able to summon a Dark. And since we have Thunder Dragon Fusion, we'll be able to use the Dark to search for a copy of the Ball, to be able to get an interruption that way. That would mean we leave the Shinobi Necro in graveyard, but that's absolutely fine, yeah. So we'll grab this copy of Dragon Hawk to our hand. And we'll use the effect to special summon back this copy of Roar from our graveyards. And we'll use the Roar and the Zayaman to go into a copy of Hulk. We'll trigger the Roar here. Not entirely sure why I keep declaring effects. You're kind of listening to what I'm saying, I'm assuming. And also we'll obviously trigger the Hulk after saying that I'm activating all the effects. So we'll special summon a Dark here. And we'll also summon a copy of Gamma. We'll then... How do we play this? We can just use these to go into our copy of Baron de Fleur. See, we're playing around Nib on like summon 19. Now, this is a little bit awkward because we want to get this Dark off the field. We don't really have many good Link 2s to go into because the IP can't be made because of the Hulk. We can't go into Seal because neither are Dragons. We don't really want to go into Unicorn because that seems a bit wasteful. So I think what we're actually going to do here is use the Baron effect just to pop the Dark. And then we can trigger this Dark and we can search for a copy of the Ball, wherever the Ball might be, the Dragon Matrix. Bang that bad boy to the hands. And then we can use Pepega Ruler in graveyard. What do we want? We definitely want to banish the Shinobi Necro, since it's banished, it gets special summoned back. And I think we want to banish this copy of Gamma, because if we banish the Gamma, our Chaos Ruler play on turn 3 will be a little bit better, because we'll be able to get the Baron de Fleur back if we opt to tag out in the standby phase. Since we banish Shinobi Necro, we can special summon that boy out, and then they both get banished when they leave the field. We could turn this and this into a copy of Cheng Ying. Cheng Ying's normally very, very good with the Bysted cards, because obviously you can banish cards on command. But in this case, we're actually going to use the Thunder Dragon Fusion to put back this copy of Dark, this copy of Roar, and this copy of Hawk to go for a Thunder Dragon Titan. And bosh that there. So the Hulk's not going to be all that useful for us in this example. There's not really much we can synchro into when all of our monsters are level 10. But we can banish it to trigger the Chengying, which is quite useful. Just going into Shooting Horizon, sending something as follow-up, and obviously we can use the Dragon Matrix, targeting this to get a pop. Chengying is going to be a banish, like I said, off the Hulk Firebrex, and we have Nomi Negate as well as some follow-up, like the Thunder Dragon Fusion and Graveyard, which we can banish to search the creator, banish some lights and darks, and then we can do other plays. So yeah, not too awful. Considering that hand didn't look too great to begin with, I'm pretty happy with that end board. Let's just reset the deck, and we'll do another test hand. Hopefully this time we'll have some Bysteds in it. Yeah, this is a pretty good hand. Opening like 2 going second cards, considering we're playing 60 cards and we're playing like 6 going second cards, is quite funny. Opening the trap's quite interesting, because it means we'd have to choose between the spell and the trap. So, where's the best way of starting with this? We'll start with normal summoning our copy of Solar, and using the effect to send a copy of Dark from the deck to grave. From there, we're going to use the Bysted Rebellion's effect to get a search, and we are going to search for Mag, which is the searcher, if you remember me explaining what these cards do. And we're going to use the Mag, special summoning itself by banishing this copy of Roar. Since Roar was banished, we can trigger Roar and special summon a copy of Dark from the deck. Then, since a Thunder monster was normal or special while Solar was on the board, we can turn that into a token. Right, where do we want to go from here? So we don't really have any tuner access, which means we won't be going into Perpetual Order, which means basically everything on board is going to have to do a lot. Unless, of course, we go into Curious, which we can do here, we would be giving up on the spell, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, we would be, because we can't get another Dark on board if we trigger the Magnum. Unless, I guess if we can get to a Perpetual Order, we can tribute off the Rebellion later, so I think we'll just do that. So I'm going to turn this token into a copy of Link Rebo. And then I'm going to turn... Sorry, when this was special, we should trigger this effect to searching end phase. Always forget to do that. But we can turn these cards all into a Curious, since we have a Thunder, a Dragon, and a Cyberverse, so we can go to Curious. And then we can trigger Curious's effect as well as Dark's effect in the graveyards. In this case, I think we're going to search for a copy of Hawk rather than Fusion, just because we don't have free in graveyard. But that could obviously change with these mills, but I'd rather be safe. I guess really you should probably just trigger the Curious Genic too, but I guess that puts you in odds of more hand traps. I actually think we're going to send Jet Synchron with this Curious, which seems really low powered, but it gets us into Hulk, which means we can do some fun stuff with that afterwards. So where's the Jet Synchron? Here's the Jet Synchron. So we'll send Jet Synchron. We want to keep... I guess getting rid of the Gamma probably makes more sense, because it's just not going to be live. So yeah, we'll get rid of... Sorry. We need to trigger Curious's second effect to mill 3 cards. That might actually change things. That changed absolutely nothing, since all of those cards were practically in the graveyard anyway. So we will discard this Gamma to special summon this copy of Jet Synchron. And we will turn the Jet Synchron, which should have been banished. We'll change that in a second. And it's Curious into a Hulky Fibrax. We can then use the Hulk to summon a Shinobi from our deck. And then we can use this Hawk to revive the level 6, which I believe is banished. That is Dragon Roar. And then we can use the Roar and the Necro to go into a copy of Chaos Ruler. We can use the Chaos Ruler effect to mill 5 and possibly add 1. So we hit a Snow, which is really nice. We also hit the other 2 Bysted cards and a Thunder Dragon. Interesting. So we hit a Chaos Space, and we don't have a non-normal summonable light, but we have the Rebellion and Graveyard. So if we grab one of the Bysted cards, we can also net a draw, as well as putting an extra body on the board. And we could make IP that way. I think we're going to add one of these Bysted cards. Probably not the Druid one, probably the Sorroneer, just to get another card out of deck. Yeah, I don't really think it matters that much. We'll grab the Sorroneer. Or Sorare, should I say. Yeah, and we'll special summon the Sorare. We could banish the Shinobi Necro to get the float, but I don't really think that's relevant right now. So I think we should just banish the Mabellion instead. Is there anything else we need to get out of deck before we do anything else? I don't think so. So I think we can actually use the Chaos Space here, declaring the effect, banishing and putting the Mabellion on the bottom of the deck and getting a draw. Get a draw. Next, we can use the Mabellion on a graveyard, attributing the Sorare to special summon itself. Probably should have done this first, actually, but I don't really think it makes that much of a difference. We can then use... We could use the Sorare effect, but I don't really think there's anything we really want to send. Not really, no. So we won't. We'll use the Mabellion effect, and we'll grab the spell from our deck. Rebrand it. We place that face up. It places as well, doesn't activate, so you can do this under anti-spell, which is quite good. We're then going to link these off for a copy of IP Masquerena. We can then use this copy of the Ruler, banishing this copy of Necro from our graveyard, as well as a light. Again, we'll go for the Gamma for the Chaos Ruler play if it comes up. We don't really have it set up right now, but there's a good chance that we could do at some point. We'll trigger the Shinobi Necro since it was banished. We get to special summon it. If it chooses to special summon, there we go. And then we can turn the Necro, which will be banished, Jack. And I guess the Chaos Ruler? Yeah, the Chaos Ruler. To go into this copy of Baron, not Chenyin. Since a monster was banished, a light or dark monster, we can place one of them on the bottom of the deck. We'll do the Shinobi Necro here, so it's back in deck. And then we get to draw another card, which is quite nice. Quick launch, that's quite interesting. Does that change anything? We have the Tracer in our hand. Did we send the spell at any points? We could actually add a Savage Dragon to this board, couldn't we? By going into... Can you summon from hand? No. But we can summon the Recharger, go into Strike a Dragon, add the spell, then add back the guy, and then special summon both the Tracer and the Recharger to go into a Savage Dragon. That locks us into Darks from the extra deck. I don't think we're doing any extra special summoning from the extra deck this turn, so I think that's totally fine to do right here. So we'll activate Quick Launch. Maybe we should keep this as follow-up, but I'm just going to show you how far the deck can go. If I was in an actual game, maybe I wouldn't do this right now, because this board is probably strong enough. So where's our copy of Recharger? There he be. So we can special summon the Recharger. We can turn it into a copy of Strike a Dragon. We can use the Strike Dragon's effect to add a copy of the Field Spell from our deck to our hand, the Boot Sector Launch. And then we can use the other effect, Destroying himself, to add back the Recharger. We could trigger the Recharger here, but I don't think there's a Dark Monster we really want to special summon back. I think we would much rather just use the Boot Sector Launch to special summon 2 names from hand. So we'll do that. And we'll special summon both of these rocket monsters from our hand. And then we can turn both of these into a copy of Borrowlobe's Savage Dragon. Just going to move this here so it's more obvious what's going on. So we can trigger this effect, and we can grab this Curious from our spell trap, from our graveyard to our spell trap zone. This guy gets 3 counters. Oh, they don't want to place. That's absolutely fun. We're going to set the trap, and then the turn's not actually over because we get to go to the end phase here, and you might remember we special summoned Mag right at the beginning of this turn, which means we get a search for any dragon monster in the end phase, which means we can actually search for a copy of Druid Worm, which we can use to special summon himself as material for either the IP or the Halka Fibrax to go into... Well, I guess we've summoned the Savage Dragon now, so I hope the Halka Fibrax doesn't actually... Well, it has Chengying, actually, so we can send a level 3 monster from our deck. So we can send a copy of Zay Amon from our deck to the graveyard to go into Chenging in our opponent's turn, which is pretty strong. And we also have the spell, which means we're going to be able to special summon a guy back, which we can use for the IP, and the Libellion to go into an Appaloosa, or we can use the trap to tribute the Libellion. So what do we actually have on this board? So we have Baron of Floor, which is a non-negate, Savage Dragon, which is a non-negate, Ivan Masquerade, which can either go into Unicorn or Appaloosa for up to 3 monster negates or a spin. We have the Hulky Fibrax, which in combination with the Druid Worm can go into the Chengying. The Druid Worm, if it is sent from the field to the graveyard, is a pop, so that's 5. More if you count the Appaloosas. We have Branded Beast, which we contribute a dragon monster to destroy a card on our opponent's field. And if our opponent summons a monster, we get to special summon a guy back with the rebranded. Probably the Magna Rocket, which will net us a search in the end phase, as well as if a monster is banished, which it definitely is going to be if we're going into Chengying and the Bysted Druid one play, we get to draw a card. So we're getting a draw, like 6 or 7 interruptions, which is pretty strong. And do we have much follow-up? I mean, we have the Thunder cards in graveyards, so if the Magna Rocket resolves, we get to grab another Druid Worm, banish the Thunder Dragons, get you search for Thunder Dragon Fusion, go for a Titan play, and then pop the board. So yeah, this is a very, very strong board, and I think that is a good enough combo with the Bysted cards to actually leave off the video here. We'll go back to the deck and just show you the list now that you might be a little bit more familiar with what these cards might do. So again, here's the list. Plenty of cards in here that are very, very good. So I hope you've enjoyed. If you have, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment any opinions you might have about the deck list. The comments have actually been quite good for telling me things that I could think about, honestly, with lists I've made previously. So I hope that continues. I'll be back with another video for something else, probably out of Darkwing Blast, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to these Bysted cards. And if the Punk cards do get banned, or like E-Tele gets banned, or whatever, I still think this deck is going to have legs. We can add another engine to it, like maybe Tier or something like that, and it'll probably be just as good. But yeah, if you've enjoyed the video, please engage, and I will see you guys next time.